Good evening, everybody. Welcome into To The Point. Hope you're doing well on this Tuesday. Few days away from the Super Bowl. We will talk about the Super Bowl later in the program as we get closer to the big game. Media all over Vegas. And I gotta say, there's times that I look at. I love doing this. I do this because I hope it can turn into a career. Seeing the people get to do their shows in Vegas, cover the Super Bowl, is the days where I am so envious, so jealous of what they get to do. I don't get jealous often because I don't really care what other people do. If people post a picture on Instagram, I could care less because I don't want to be doing that. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be around the people. I like who I like. And I have no problem being. It's hurt me in life at times because you should be more social and maybe try to make more friends, but I don't do it all that much because why? But there's days like today, I'm looking at the Super Bowl, the media day, I get just jealous of what they're doing and I'm not doing. Hopefully one day I'm there. Hopefully one day work my way, find a way into doing it because seeing them doing the media, seeing them in Vegas, I mean, it's a historic. To think that a Super Bowl is in Vegas is quite alarming. I mean, for the longest time, the NFL and every major sports league really said no. We don't want Vegas because they're attached to gambling, and gambling is, haram. It's horrible. And now, survey done, I saw on TSN this morning, from now until Sunday, they are projecting that there will be over $100 million spent gambling on the Super Bowl. That's a survey. Could be more, could be less. But when I saw the number, I didn't flinch. It didn't surprise me, I'll say that. I mean, I'm going to be betting on the game. So I'm just one person, but I know I'm going to be. But today's a motivation day for this week is for me. Because I don't admit defeat. I don't feel sorry for myself. I just want to get better, do this show better for all of you every day, and be there one day covering a Super Bowl. Because that's, it's a pretty damn cool thing. And hope everybody has fun doing it. But I hope Sunday soon they have to move the hell over because I'm running my way through. Like a buzzsaw. But unfortunately, I suck at social media and I don't really care. So don't really care about that aspect about trying to promote myself more. Which will hurt me in getting more views and ultimately getting to that path. So that seems like two opposing things coming at you. But maybe I'll get lucky, who knows? Maybe I'll get hit by a bus, who knows? Life's crazy. But I just want to start off with that. I know you probably don't care. But that was my feeling today all day. It's just sitting at work and you're thinking, God, I wish I was doing that instead of doing this. And yeah. But that's all for now. We will talk Super Bowl later in the week. Before we get to that, today's show we're going to talk some NBA. Joel Embiid, done for at least a month. Could be longer. We'll miss the All-Star game. We'll miss being the back-to-back MVP like he was tracking to be, averaging 35 points a game. So that's coming up later. We're going to talk some baseball. A big signing by a low revenue AL team and a legend in Los Angeles returns to his team. Surprising to me, honestly. We'll talk some golf with the Waste Management starting in a couple days. But before we get to all of that, let's start with the NHL. It returned last night. The kiddie stuff's over. No more skills comps and 3-on-3, whatever else they were doing up there in the 6. Bieber with his ugly coat on the bench. We had 2 games last night. Both were actually very compelling, competitive. And as we head into the second half, last night's game, I thought both of them were very well played. I didn't expect them to be. Colorado has Rantanen, Makar, McKinnon at the All-Star game. The Rangers have a number of representatives. The Leafs have Nylander and Riley and Marner and Matthews. So you're looking at going, well, those guys did a lot this weekend. Put their bodies through a lot. Maybe they won't be top-notch. And some of them weren't. I don't think Austin Matthews had his best game of the season last night. He looked a little just disengaged to me. But he's been scoring at such a rapid pace. I'm not dinging him any points. I think he had a game. He was on the ice, didn't do much, but that happens. Happens to players much worse than him way more often than it does to Austin Matthews, so no shame there. But I thought the Toronto Maple Leafs, despite the fact that they lost to the New York Islanders for the 3rd time this season, which is quite something, I thought they played pretty well last night. You can make the argument they deserved to win the game, but the Islanders played very well, just as well as Toronto, in my opinion. The game was close, but I thought Toronto played well. I want to give them their flowers here, despite the fact that they lost the game. You're starting to see certain things turn around for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think Tyler Bertuzzi over the last 4 games, I can't even say the last couple weeks because they've been off for a week. Over the last 4 to 5 games, Tyler Bertuzzi is starting to play like the guy they signed, the guy they wanted to be productive. Now, he can't hit the backside of a barn door. He is snake-bitten right now to the upteenth degree, but he's playing better. He's physical, he's on pucks, he's coming out of corner with pucks, he's getting to the front of the net, and he's providing a service. Goals will come for him if he continues to play this way. It just won't go in. And thinking back to that Winnipeg game, if the Nylander goalie interference, that was not goalie interference, Bertuzzi would have scored there. He would have got off the schneid like Tavares, and maybe he scores another goal last night, like Tavares did, getting off the schneid down in the peg as well. But Tyler Bertuzzi is a good sight for the Maple Leafs. John Tavares has played a couple good games in a row. I thought the second line for Toronto, despite the fact that Nylander only has 2 points in his last 7 games, was their best line. Better than Marner and Matthews and Matthew Nyes. They were around the puck. They made things happen. They were aggressive. And every time they're on the ice, I felt like they could score a goal. And seeing Tavares play well 5-on-5 is a sight for sore eyes because it doesn't happen all that often. He'd been playing dog shit hockey for a couple weeks. And he looked 100 with those legs trucking around the ice. He played well. He'll never be fast, but he wasn't slow last night. Ilya Samsonov. Another solid start. They did not lose the game because of Ilya Samsonov. He made some big saves. He kept them in it. And early in that first period, the Islanders were outplaying them. He made a couple key saves to keep it close. A big save on Kyle Palmieri. Backside, again, every start is a worry with him because of the problems he's had, because of how shaky he is, his mental stability being completely unhinged. But he was good again. He's had 3 or 4 good starts in a row. And if you look at it, if the team's not sleeping when McLean comes out of the box, could go in overtime, and it's another game where you get a point. All of that positive for me. Here's my issue. And this is the difficult thing. I can watch a team play for 48 games, which the Maple Leafs had. And I can say I really like parts of their game and I hate others. And they went on a little run prior to the All-Star break, beating the Jets twice. And you can go, well, they can beat anybody in the league, which I think they can on a given night because the regular season is different from the playoffs. Austin Matthews can score 4 goals. Nylander can get a goal on the power play, and you chip in another one, you beat another team 6-4, 6-3. But the Leafs are playing the Islanders, who, despite the fact, they are faster than they used to be. Patrick Waugh brought a new identity to the team. So fascinating to watch him behind the bench, how into it he is, how rambunctious he is, the energy that he brings to a bench, the presence, if you will. But the Islanders are not, not the Islanders of old. They're not an elite team. They're not in a playoff position right now. They hardly have a player averaging a point per game. They still are playing the old school style. They're an okay team. They're a decent hockey team, the New York Islanders, despite the fact that they own the Maple Leafs. So, you lose a game on your first game back to a mediocre team. Which is what I kind of think my conclusion here is that's who the Maple Leafs are. They are a mediocre team. They're not great, they're not bad, they're not excellent, they're not horrible. They're right in that middle. And it can be quite confusing because you look at the Maple Leafs and go, well, they have the best goal scorer in the world. They have one of the best passers in the world. They got, Bill Nylander, who's quite handsome, looks like a host of a podcast I really like. They got 44 who I'm not giving him props. Screw that. Played brutal last night. They got Morgan Rielly, who was an all-star this year. Whoop-de-woo. But, they got a good team. Good, not great. And when you're a good team, you can beat good teams. You can occasionally beat a great team, and you are who you are. I don't see how. It's almost a month till the trade deadline. It's on March 8th. Be a month Thursday. I do not see how between now and March 8th, the Toronto Maple Leafs will acquire enough defensemen to be a viable threat to win the Stanley Cup. So they will be a noteworthy team because they play in Toronto and so many people care. And could they give Florida a run in the first round? I don't think they'll get swept in that series. I honestly think it's a better situation for the Toronto Maple Leafs if the Boston Bruins get caught by the Florida Panthers. Despite the fact that Toronto hasn't beaten Boston in the playoff series in a very long time, I think just the matchup is better. Gives the Toronto Maple Leafs a better chance of winning than playing Florida. I don't think they're beating Florida. But I look last night and I go, Liljegren's, I'm making an analogy here. I think Timothy Liljegren's a lot like Joe Biden. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He doesn't know what his job is. He doesn't know where's he supposed to be. What's my role here on this team? I'm just confused. Am I offensive? Am I defensive? What am I supposed to do in this play? He's a fish out of water, and he doesn't have a home. Doesn't know where he's going. 43 Wallaby Way, Sydney. He doesn't know. So, when you have a defenseman like that, and you have a guy like TJ Brody who's slow, and you're bouncing between Giordano, who's 40. Thank God for Benoit, because he's kind of a jack of all trades. Not a master of anything, but he's good. He serves a purpose. But I look at that Toronto defense, I think you need 3 guys. You're not going to get 3 guys. You don't have the assets to get 3 guys. And the odds of acquiring an elite defenseman are slim to none. And they've never addressed it. Dubas didn't. True Living, to this point, has not. It's never been an issue. Expecting Morgan Rielly to play 25 minutes a night is just stupidity because he's not a 25-minute-a-night defenseman. Just isn't. He's not. To me, he's not a top pair guy on a great team. And that's really it. I mean, you look at the team and go, they're good, not great. They can compete against anybody. But when they're not scoring a bunch of goals, their flaws shine through. Morgan Rielly played 26 minutes last night. 26 minutes. That's too many. Nylander played 25. Matthews played 25. Marner played 24. Tavares played 21 minutes. Liljegren played 16. Woof. TJ Brodie played 22. I mean, it's just too many minutes for players that aren't good enough to handle the minutes. And Sheldon Keefe can't do anything. He's given the players. And I'm going to remain steadfast on this. I don't care if the Leafs go on a tear the next month. I'm not going all in because I don't believe this team can win. I just don't. They're not going to. You can get patchwork defensemen. They have patchwork defensemen now. You'll get a better guy and you'll look at it and go, okay, well, he can help me, I guess. He's better than what we have. Okay. Fair enough. He's better than Timothy Liljegren. That's really hard to do that. But it's just a situation right now where I would wait in the wings. I wouldn't trade for a Chris Tanev unless I know I can sign him. If you're doing a sign and trade and give up a first round, I'd rather have Hanifin, personally. I don't know if they can afford him and what the return will be. But you need some defensemen. I think you need help in your bottom 6. And who's your goalie? Joseph Wald. Talked about him yesterday. He doesn't sound like he's close. Sheldon Keefe said he could be out more weeks. It might be a 10-week injury if he doesn't come back through the month of February. I mean, the guy gets injured all the time. You have Ilya Samsonov, he's like a baby bird. You're trying to nurture him back to health. So you got some uncertainty in net. No confidence there. A bad defense. Matthews chasing, goal history. Good for him. That's awesome. And that sells. That's good for the market. And they're going to be a playoff team. I have no doubt about that. I've said that all year. I will never back off of that opinion. If they miss the playoffs, I will be stunned. Because I've also had this opinion all year. There's not that many good teams in the East. There just isn't. And I told you guys this from day one. Before the season started. I don't always get everything right. And we revisit it when I don't. But thinking that you look at this. The Maple Leafs have 58 points. Red Wings have 58 as well, but the Leafs have 2 games in hand. Islanders, they don't want to play the Islanders because they have a tough time against them. But Pittsburgh's played 46 games, but Pittsburgh's not a good team. Pittsburgh's not passing Toronto. Not happening, if you ask me. No chance. Devils, I like the Devils, but they've been injured all year. They don't have consistent goaltending. They've had to play 8 defensemen from their American League because they've had injuries all year. I don't see them catching. Washington, please spare me. Buffalo, no chance. Montreal sucks. Ottawa will play 800 hockey between now and the end of the year. They'll still miss. No threat there. And Blue Jackets are just hoping that they can concede the rest of the year. So Maple Leafs are making the playoffs, and in all likelihood, I think they're going to finish likely third in the Atlantic, but they could maybe make it interesting. Florida, if they have a slow second half. Boston, potentially. I think Toronto will finish ahead of Tampa because I just think they're a little bit deeper. They're two teams that have similar problems. Tampa's defense is not good enough. Kucherov's great, just like Matthews is. And you look at Point, you look around, they got similar pieces, but they got holes as well. But I think Toronto's got to be a team, if they do win, they go on a run. They find a couple bounces, you overcome some issues. And they played well. I thought they played well last night. But talking about a team that gets covered a lot, I have to give you my honest opinion. Islanders beat Toronto last night. Looking at the second half here, the Flyers had an amazing first 50 games. But just prior to the trade All-Star game, they had started to hit the skids. Carter Hart's involved in the World Junior Team investigation. He's not going to be playing, potentially, for the rest of his life. But he's not playing this season. So you have two goalies that don't have experience. And you have Keith Jones and Danny Briere who want to start a rebuild. That tells me the team's going to be playing poorly either via goaltending and lack of experience or because they choose to trade away pieces. Doesn't matter. They're not going to be a playoff team. I don't see them making the playoffs, the Philadelphia Flyers. Hurricanes will, and the Rangers will. Toronto, Boston, Florida. Tampa has their problems, but I do think Tampa's going to make the playoffs in at least one last spot. Detroit occupies it right now. Detroit's a solid team. They play hard. They play with good structure. They're fast. Their goaltending, you might not know any of the names, but Alex Lyon's been a stud all season long. I think we'll learn a lot about the Red Wings. This is their schedule this month. Home to the Canucks, at the Oilers, at the Canucks, at the Flames, at the Kraken, home to the Avalanche, home to the Blues, and they play some easy games. But that next 6-7 games, that's a brutal schedule. Heading out Western Canada, February, against two of the best teams in the league. But I'm going to say the Islanders are going to take the Flyers spot potentially. I think the Islanders are a good team when they want to be. So that leaves Detroit, Pittsburgh potentially, the Devils. Those are the only teams. And I lean New Jersey over Pittsburgh because I just think they're better, even with their holes, despite the fact that they don't have a goaltender. And I think it's a disaster if New Jersey missed the playoffs, and it's also a disaster if Pittsburgh missed the playoffs this year, quite frankly. Both teams really need to hard press and get in. That was the expectation. Penguins missed, they blow it up. Kyle Dubas got a 7-year contract, so he has the time to do this. I trade Gensel by next month. But could Detroit get in, make the playoffs for the first time in a very long time? Yes. Because they got some good players, they built it. We'll see. Should be fun. But the Leafs are playing better, more consistently. They play tomorrow against the Dallas Stars. Tough opponent. Dallas, however, does play tonight, so Toronto gets someone a back-to-back. So an advantage there. And I'll just check that out right now. If Dallas is playing Ottinger tonight, so Toronto's going to get a backup goalie tonight with the team on a back-to-back. That should be a win. Should be. Doesn't always mean it's going to be a win, but it should be a win for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Tonight, the Edmonton Oilers are chasing history. Hockey's on. I'm going to be watching it, but I'm telling you tonight, 11 o'clock puck drop, I'm staying up for at least the first couple of periods because I need to see Edmonton play the Vegas Golden Knights. It's the only game at 11 o'clock, all to itself. If Edmonton wins tonight, they will have won 17 straight games, which will tie an NHL record for most consecutive regular season wins in a row. Crazy opportunity. They get the chance to do it in Vegas, where Vegas wasn't even in the league a few years ago. They get a chance to do it in Vegas during Super Bowl week. Another interesting thing. And the Vegas Golden Knights, who beat the Edmonton Oilers in the second round last year. And as we all know, Vegas went on to win the Stanley Cup. Edmonton's biggest transformation is they're starting to play more like Vegas did last year. Connor McDavid has not been putting up record points during this win streak. You haven't seen highlights where he's all over the ice, cheating, scoring goals. It's more of him being in good situations, playing well defensively, doing it all out there. And the team's bought in, the team's played well. Stuart Skinner's been phenomenal between the pipes. And here the Edmonton Oilers are. They win tonight, they get Anaheim on Friday. You get to play one of the worst teams in the league to set a new record. I think Vegas is going to come to play tonight. I think they want to ruin this for the Edmonton Oilers. That's motivation alone. Vegas had such a great start. And you look at them not playing great hockey. Had a ton of injuries. The Oilers are only 5 points back with 5 games in hand. So if the Oilers win tonight, Vegas is really in trouble. This Oilers winning streak is going to end eventually. They got Vegas, Anaheim, and the Los Angeles Kings this week. And LA's game against Edmonton will be LA's first game without Todd McClellan behind the bench. So a lot of intriguing games for the City of Champions this week. But that game is box office. That game's a great game in and of itself because you get those two teams and the history and a really physical series last year where Pietrangelo got suspended for that slash on Draisaitl and some nasty hits. Both teams coming off an all-star break. Could be some bad structure, some bad systems out there tonight. But I'm intrigued to watch it. Because again, McDavid, Draisaitl, they were in Toronto. Vegas had a few guys go down there to participate. I also thought Vegas just needed a break because they kind of hit the ditch. They get Aiden Hill back in net, so he'll be between the pipes tonight. But if Edmonton can tie this record, something else, in a season where you fire your head coach for Chris Knobloch, you win 17 in a row, potentially 18 in a row, setting a new record. Despite the fact that Knobloch was not on the bench the whole year, I think he vaults himself into Coach of the Year consideration. It's tough because I think through 50 games, Rick Tocchet would win the award. I also think Jim Montgomery should be in play because the fact that Boston have 71 points after 49 games is completely alarming to me in a great way. I can't believe it. He's got that team playing that well. Kudos to him. Rick Bowness in Winnipeg has to be at least considered, discussed. Those are really my people right now. Potentially Peter Laviolette with the Rangers, first-year head coach. I've always made the argument Coach of the Year is simple. Whoever has the best record at the end of the year wins Coach of the Year. Doesn't always happen that way. I think it makes sense, personally, because you coached the team to the best record in the league. It's a regular season award. What you do after that is completely irrelevant. You might lose in the first round winning the President's Trophy like the Boston Bruins did last year. I didn't bring this up Sunday. I wanted to talk. I don't know if I talked about this. I talk all the time about how NHL players just give you nothing. No personality. Like talking to an ass cheek. Just you don't want to hear it. You don't care what they say. Cliches. Sidney Crosby's a big part of the reason for that because he's been that way for 19 years. And it's been boring and every interview is the same. I don't care what he has to say. It's likely irrelevant. I think I did talk about this on Sunday, but I didn't go into greater detail. So here it is. David Pastrnak made a throwaway comment after the All-Star game. He was asked about Team Matthews winning, and he said it was very nice for him, very nice for them to win it because they don't win a lot. It was nice for them to get a win. And it's kind of a throwaway comment, and he can smile, but I like this. And I think the league should use it. I think when the Toronto Maple Leafs play the Boston Bruins, which I can let you know when that is, because I'm going to pull up their schedule. But when the Boston Bruins play the Toronto Maple Leafs again, which is March 4th, a couple days before the trade deadline, I might add. They play twice that week, but bring that up on social media. If you go beat the Boston Bruins, throw that quote up. I think this should be a rivalry. You might think, oh, it already is. Is it? Is it really? Is it physical? Is there hatred there? You want to force in something? Go ahead. But get that rivalry if you think it's already there. And just get the pogo stick and light it on fire a little bit more. Get the hatred cooking just a tad bit more than it has been. Create that vitriol. Create hysteria. Create energy and make people want to tune in. If the Leafs forwards don't like what Pastrnak said, which they probably won't, because looking at the way the game ended last night, Austin Matthews wants nothing to do with the scrum. But Pasternak's not a physical guy, per se. He's not dropped the gloves. He's not an enforcer, and he made fun of you. He basically said you're a loser. It's all you ever do in your career. To be fair to the Leaf stars, David Pastrnak, while he's played in a Stanley Cup final, has not won a Stanley Cup. David Pastrnak lost in the first round, being a President's Trophy winner, to the Florida Panthers last year. He's still searching for that ultimate prize, just like the Maple Leafs are. Now, Leafs fans that got offended and so upset about that, good. Hate David Pastrnak. Hate the Bruins, like you say you do already. Well, show it for once. Boo him like you'd booed Nikita Kucherov for not giving a shit the All-Star. I mean, that All-Star game booing, I heard it the other day on SportsCenter, that was louder than any Leaf crowd this year for a home game. I can't say that definitively because I watch every Leaf game on mute because I can't stand Craig Simpson. But hey, I'm going to take my word for it because I've listened with the sound on before, and it's not that loud. The library. But this comment is fantastic. Utilize it. Market it. Make it more compelling. Just a thought. Will they? Probably not. But who knows? Also tonight, Elias Lindholm, Lindholm Monahan will make their debuts for their respective new clubs. You have Monahan and the Jets in Pittsburgh. You have the Canucks in Carolina to play the Hurricanes, which should be a fun game. That's the game I'm going to be watching tonight, focusing in on, I'll tell you. But you had Lindholm with Pettersson. Curious to see how that works. A couple guys from Sweden. They're familiar with each other, obviously. So you have that connection. Monahan with the Jets. It wasn't on the ice this morning, but it sounds like he's going to play. So interesting for sure. But curious to see how those guys play in their new locations. First game, both guys on the road out east. It's interesting locations. If you look at it, Colorado's out east. You got Vancouver out east. Calgary. A lot of Western teams out east this week. Frank Saravelli just on Twitter. Gary Bettman said we'll have an announcement on the Yotes' future in a few weeks. Sources say it could come as soon as this weekend. Just to keep everybody updated, they don't have a rink. They haven't come to terms on an arena deal. Here's a thought. I've heard this discussed before. The NHL and Gary Bettman does not want to lose the Arizona market, which I understand and don't understand at the same time because it hasn't been a good hockey market. I understand not wanting to leave Arizona. It's beautiful. Weather's great. I'd live there in a heartbeat. Sounds ideal to me. No snow. Less people than Miami. If you love to golf, it doesn't get much better. There's no winter. It's phenomenal. But it's not a good hockey market. It just isn't. It's not a great baseball market, even despite the fact that the Diamondbacks got to the World Series last year. It's okay for the NBA and it's okay for the NFL. They want to find an arena, and I think they're going to need to build a new one for the Arizona Coyotes. Here's my pitch. The league wants expansion, or at least I think the league wants expansion because it brings in a whole lot of money. I think there's several cities across the world that want to take on an NHL franchise. We obviously talked a few weeks ago about the Utah Jazz owner wanting in on the NHL. He wants a team in Utah, the Fighting Mormons. Houston has been rumored in the mix for a long time. Toronto has always been labeled as having a second team in the city. You could do that. I don't think that's happening. And honestly, I don't think that'll happen until Trudeau's out of office, but that's just I have no knowledge on that. That's just me pontificating because I know if I was doing business, I wouldn't be doing that until he was gone. So it could be soon, hopefully. But here's my pitch. Arizona doesn't have a rink. They want to get a new rink. Let them have the time to find a new rink, build one, whatever they have to do. Move Arizona next year to Utah. They will no longer be the Arizona Coyotes. They will be the Utah Fighting Mormons or whatever they actually want to call the team. I think the Fighting Mormons is a fun name. It won't be that, but I think it's fun. So Arizona becomes the Utah Fighting Mormons, or they can become the Houston Renegades, whatever they want to be, right? Go to Utah, go to Houston, Atlanta for the third time potentially. Whatever city has the best resources, has a rink, whatever you think is best set up for immediate success, you announce the Coyotes are going there next season. Relocation fee, much smaller than the expansion fee to the league, but Arizona's been a problem. Moving them will get more fans, more interest. You boost the new market. The Arizona team is young. They're not horrible this year. They could be a playoff team as soon as next year if you make a few correct moves. You have ownership that are willing to spend. It's not the worst case scenario. So, while this happens, you relocate Coyotes to one of those three cities. And if you want to go back to Arizona, you can. Find the right place for a rink, build it, have the infrastructure ready, and in 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years, there is an expansion team, and the expansion team is going to Arizona. And as crazy as that sounds, I don't think it's ludicrous because it's not going to be an owner that they've had. An owner, like all these teams, I don't think the Walmart guy who bought the Denver Broncos ideally wanted to be in Denver. He's not from Denver. He didn't start his businesses in Denver. But when you're buying an NFL team, that's where it's just who's available, right? That team's available. It's 1 of 32. I'll buy the Denver Broncos. I will fly in on my private jet the day of the game, and I will fly out of that city the same day. You don't have to spend any time in that city if you don't want to. I think an owner, if you tell them, hey, you can buy a team and it's in Arizona, you want to have an expansion team, you're going to do it in Arizona. People want to live in Arizona. Owners wouldn't mind being in Arizona. If you can do the work and do surveys and market research and know that this place is the best, and Gary Bettman will help you because he loves the Arizona market for whatever reason, well, we know why, he doesn't want to admit that he was wrong about it, then you have an expansion team to Arizona after the Arizona Coyotes of 2024 are relocated to Utah or Atlanta or Houston. Whichever city the NHL deems the best option. Frank Saravelli, in his piece, and he's a very good writer, he knows a lot. He says, option 1, find a site and put shovels in the ground. Coyotes have been mum on their search for a site. Marty Walsh had scathing comments about them last week, so they're really under fire here. Multiple sites are still being considered, which really means not much. Option 2, sell the team, stay in Arizona. He says, could the Phoenix Suns majority owner Matt Ishbia be interested? I think Matt Ishbia would be a good owner for the NHL. Do it in a couple of years. And option 3, relocate to Salt Lake City, otherwise known as my kind of plan. You can go back to Arizona. You can always go back. They went back to Atlanta twice. NFL, they left Baltimore. They went back. They left Cleveland. They went back. These things happen. You didn't have a good fan base to begin with. They won't miss you. Bring him back. You have a nice arena. Positive things about the franchise. If I look at those options, I think we're going to be told that they found a site and they're going to build an arena. But the problem with that is you're playing in a 5,000 seat barn for God knows how long. And it's not a good look. Watching games on television in that arena sucks. It's not good. So, we'll keep you posted on that. But interesting nonetheless. what's happening in Arizona. And when you see guys like Marty Walsh and people of power take over, it makes you think a little bit more. That's for sure. It was opening night, media day with the Super Bowl last night. It's always interesting because you have people that cover the NFL, the beat on a day-to-day basis, and you have people like Guillermo Cruz, who I think does Jimmy Fallon show, whatever his name is. I don't even know what his name is. He does Jimmy Fallon show. He's always there asking kind of weird questions. You have an eclectic mix of people asking people things. I saw George Kittle was talking about WWE, and one of the questions he was asked, Patrick Mahomes was asked about his dad bod. I mean, he had different things last night, it was good. One thing that was asked was of Andy Reid. They asked if he's retiring. He said, today's not the day. Doesn't sound like he's going to be retiring after this season. He might win another Super Bowl. He's the best quarterback in the sport. I don't think he's ready to give it up. I don't think he's going to give it up. But he was asked about that last night. But both teams seem really relaxed. Both teams seem confident. Not shaken by the moment. Most of these guys have already played in a Super Bowl, at least one. They met 4 years ago. But Brock Purdy's very poised. A lot of Taylor Swift questions, which is not surprising. But it looked like a fun night. Everybody was in a good mood. No big fights. They got through it. There's still been some additions to staff. Former head coach of the New York Giants, Ben McAdoo, he's been hired as an offensive assistant with the New England Patriots, so he's back in the NFL. He's only 46. Worked under Van Pelt in Green Bay way back when. So reunites with a friend. He gets another opportunity to go work in the New England Patriots with Gerard Mayo at the helm. No more Bill Belichick. He's nowhere to be seen. Oh, and here's the survey. Americans expected to bet $23.1 billion on Super Bowl. $23.1 billion. We bet a pile of money in Canada. I guarantee that gets to 100 billion. You know, I would have to guess $50 billion at the very least worldwide. I mean, come on. Gambling's big, and you got to think the amount of money being put down on tables. I mean, it's in Vegas all week. Golly, craziness. But other than the Super Bowl looming, pretty quiet week in the NFL. I'm going to talk about matchups that I'm looking forward to as we get closer to the big game. Different things that I think are going to decide the game one way or the other. We'll likely do that Thursday. We'll preview the game for the weekend. We'll do that on Thursday night's pod. We're here tonight. We'll be here tomorrow, here on Thursday this week. So lots of fun content coming. But, the lines stayed tried and true all week, still minus 2.5. The over-under still 47.5. It's been that way since the championship games ended. Mahomes' best odds to win. We're going to talk props. On Thursday night, we'll talk about the line, Super Bowl MVP odds, all of that fun stuff. So we'll talk about those lines. You can find those at FanDuel Sportsbook. That'll be coming Thursday night. So to get you prepped for the big game this coming Sunday. Let's pivot to golf. Said on Sunday, we'll talk about the winner of Pebble Beach on Tuesday after they play on Monday, because it got rained out Sunday. They're going to play Monday, final round like they did last year where Justin Rose won the tournament. But the conditions were too awful. They couldn't do it. So Wyndham Clark wins Pebble Beach after 54 holes. Normally you go, okay, this isn't a real win. Sounds more like a live event. Fraud, fake winner. I don't really have that sentiment. And the reason I say this is because Wyndham Clark shot a 60 on Saturday. He was all over that field. He was surgical. It doesn't guarantee he's going to shoot well on Sunday. But if I'm looking at it, I'm going, if I have to give somebody the victory, at least you saw a guy shoot 60 heading into the final round. So Wyndham Clark picks up another big victory. 3 in the past year on the PGA Tour, including a major. He's red hot. We had the waste management this week. My favorite tour event. And we have some news because there's been some withdrawals. Joaquin Niemann, number 4 ranked golfer in the world, winner of the FedEx Cup just this past August, will not be playing. He has a problem with his wrist, and he won't be participating. Neither will Xander Schauffele, who has a shoulder injury. Schauffele's number 5 ranked golfer in the world. So number 4 and number 5 all not competing. You had Liv last week where you have Jon Rahm and Joaquin Niemann going down the stretch. So while the Waste Management remains my favorite PGA Tour event, it got worse. It certainly did. You have 2 of the best guys in the world. Victor Perez will replace Hovland. Davis Riley has also withdrawn, will be replaced by Ryan Fox. Xander Bork will replace Schauffele. Tournament will still be good. I mean, you have Scotty Scheffler, the 2-time defending champion. Wyndham Clark, who just won at Pebble. Max Homa, Matt Fitzpatrick, Brian Harmon, Spieth, JT, Sam Burns, Ricky Fowler, Hideki Matsuyama. But watching what Liv has done taking players and then seeing these 2 guys not participating, it softens up the field. You lose some big names, and it doesn't make it, as compelling. Thank God for, growing stars like Ludwig Aberg, who's a shot off the lead going into Sunday this past weekend at Pebble. Nick Dunlap, fresh out of college, a fun story. Certainly, you do have major winners last year who were on the PGA Tour. Pavon, who's played great golf, finishing in the top 3 the last 2 tournaments. Chris Kirk. Sahith Theegala. But you just look at the standings on the PGA Tour. It's not as good as it used to be. The competition's not as great. And listen to an interview with Justin Thomas today and Ricky Fowler. 2 are obviously very close, very good friends. They were chatting with I think it was the Foreplay podcast. And they both said that if you join LIV, you should have to face a penalty when you come back. You shouldn't just be allowed back in, make all that money, then come back to the tour after you abandon it and face no repercussions. And honestly, I agree with them. Not because those guys did anything wrong, but you made a choice. And I think Jay Monahan, who's going to be at the helm of all of this, who's got away scot-free basically by not telling the players what's happening and now trying to merge LIV and PGA together, he has one issue that he has to resolve. He has to figure out what he wants to do to make these players whole, to keep them happy, and just to let guys like John Rahm and Dustin Johnson and Phil back in. Well, Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth are saying, why do I have to play in this field, a loaded field, after they didn't have to do anything last year and they just get to, walk in? It's a tough position. They're going to have to figure it out. Quite frankly. But I do think there's going to be players on tour, and I think the large majority of them will have this opinion, because this is Justin Thomas, this is Ricky Fowler, two of the best golfers in the world. If you are a lesser player and you want to be able to qualify to compete in events, you do not want those guys just waltzing in, because they're going to be taking a spot from you. So there's still intrigue. Yes, they've got money from Fenway Sports Group, and they put that in, and they got Full Swing coming out in March. But the LIV deal's not done. When that deal will be done, we don't know. There's reporting, it's so close, but until it's done, until it's reported that it's completed, it's not completed. LIV just held an event in Mexico. PGA Tour is playing at the Waste Management. They're not playing together. Do other players leave before the merger's completed? Been rumors for a long time. They wanted Wyndham Clark. Sounds like he said no. They wanted Victor Hovland. He told the media he said no this summer. They offered him a lot of money because he's... And there is penalties. Like Joaquin Niemann, who shot a 59 this weekend and won the LIV event in Mexico in a 4-hole playoff against Sergio Garcia, he's not eligible for any of the majors this year. To me, he's one of the 10 best golfers in the world. He's better than Justin Thomas. He's better than Jordan Spieth, just for me. The ball striking this guy can do, he can put it to... His putting is sensational. He's legit. He won Riviera a couple years ago, which will be played a week from Thursday. Tigers event. One of the toughest golf courses on the PGA Tour. He won that event. He's not playing at a major. At any of them. Because he hasn't won. He hasn't qualified because, the golf points don't count on LIV. It sucks because I want to see him play. But this divide does have repercussions. You might not know Joaquin Niemann if you're not a diehard golf fan. But if you follow golf and you know a little bit about it, Joaquin Niemann is as legit as it gets. He's one of the best golfers in the world. The guy Wyndham Clark shot a 60 at Pebble. He shot a 59 in Mexico. He did better than a major winner last weekend. So there's all these different intricacies that they have to figure out. Which is, I find the business of it fascinating. I love to watch the golf as well. Starts on Thursday through Sunday. You finish the Waste Management, then you flip over the station. Actually, you won't even have to flip the station because I'm pretty sure the Waste Management is on CBS. You stay on CBS, it goes to Hello Friends, you're talking to Jim Nantz, and then all of a sudden you're getting prepped for the Super Bowl. They may put that event on the Golf Channel. I'm not sure, however, but CBS normally carries that event. I do know that because Gym usually goes for at least the first couple days. All right. Let's pivot to baseball. The Kansas City Royals are one of the cheapest organizations in professional sports. They always have a low payroll. They haven't really tried to compete since they won a World Series. They go through different just patterns. They just don't spend a whole lot of money. Different owners flipping between guys. Well, Kansas City, who they want a new stadium, although Kauffman Field's still a good stadium, but they've been pressing that for a while. They finally spent some money. Because yesterday they signed Bobby Witt Jr., who is a phenomenal young talent, to an 11-year, $286 million extension, or $288 million extension. It's over $26 million a year. He has opt-outs after years 7, 8, 9, and 10. So 6 years guaranteed that can be pushed to an 11-year deal. And Kansas City gets to keep one of their own, a guy they drafted, a guy you develop. And you also kind of get to show people, hey, we're willing to spend money. Bobby Witt will only be 24 in June. Good little shortstop, batted .276 last year with 30 homers and 96 RBIs on a really bad team. Now, Kansas City, this offseason, added Hunter Renfroe, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha. They've signed some veteran guys to their team. To be fair, to try to make it more competitive, Nick Anderson, relief pitcher from the Braves, who was a solid player, I'll give them that. Kyle Wright coming over, taking a chance with him, who was with the Atlanta Braves for a long time. Still have Salvador Perez. Adam Frazier comes over. Garrett Hampson can be very good. Bobby Witt Jr., their outfield, not very good. They're a team that you go, okay, they got Bobby Witt. They don't spend a whole lot of money other than him. Let's see if these veterans can play. Our young guys produce a little bit. And we could be the Baltimore Orioles of 2023. Win a division, which is not crazy to say you could win the American League Central, because the American League Central is a joke division. It's either Minnesota or it's never the White Sox, who've been a disaster, longer than Kansas City, because at least Kansas City made it to back-to-back World Series and they won one of them. But I think this is a bit of a smoke and mirrors play. You see in sports that a team that doesn't spend a whole lot of money spends a whole lot of money on one guy. And you want to keep a guy, you want to keep the fan base happy because he's a name you can market. He's a good player. He's the best player that you have. This is a building block. A very good player. I don't think he's an elite position player. I don't think he's an elite hitter. He's very good. Great defensively. Great for Kansas City. But if you're going to be spending the money that you're spending and your prospects don't turn out to be great, they're going to remain where they are, in the bottom of the American League Central, battling it out with the White Sox. And honestly, Kansas City very well could be better than the Chicago White Sox this year, because I don't know what the White Sox are doing. I don't know what their plan is. They're just another weird team that has been disappointing the last number of years, and they're trying to find their way. Kansas City could be better than them. Could you battle the Twins? Potentially. Tigers. Nobody's really scared of the Tigers, and the Cleveland Guardians are kind of going through a new era with Terry Francona retiring after last season. So never say never in the American League Central, because you don't have to beat many teams to get to the top of the mountain. That's the great thing about it. And Bobby Witt Jr. is a good stepping stone. You keep your best player. Good on Kansas City. I will say that. Spending money. Now, the team who spent the most money this offseason has been the Los Angeles Dodgers by a country mile. Ohtani was the big fish, obviously. Deferred contract. I mean, you look at their club and you go, like, what's going on here? How have they done this? They already had Mookie Betts. You had Yamamoto, Freddie Freeman, Tyler Glass now comes over from the Tampa Bay Rays. You had Teoscar Hernandez, Manuel Margot comes over from the Rays. Max Muncy, Walker Buehler, who will be returning from TJ. James Paxton, the Big Maple. They spent a lot of money. They still have some good prospects. They potentially could do more in free agency because there's still some very good players available, including Cody Bellinger, who has played. So it's very interesting there. The Dodgers, despite all that, and they have some pitchers on injured reserve, and while Ohtani can pitch, he will not be pitching this season. Today they went out and got some more depth. They signed one of the best pitchers in franchise history, Clayton Kershaw, to a 1-year extension. It'll be his 17th year with the Dodgers. He comes back for another year, hoping to win another World Series before his career comes to an end. I got to tell you, I'm surprised. The way it ended last year, where he gave up 6 earned runs to the Diamondbacks, pitched a third of an inning, I just thought it's time to move on for Clayton and for the Dodgers. I also thought maybe he'll want to take some time off, come back, say, July, All-Star break, pitch the last couple months, not as many starts. You avoid injuries that way like Kershaw gets every year, but you look at him, he had 24 starts, and he was 13-5 with a 2.46 ERA last year. His velocity is going down. He's not as good a pitcher as he used to be, but with that, you have Yamamoto, Glass now, Kershaw, Walker Buehler when he returns. I mean, he's one of the best pitchers to ever do it. No doubt about it. Not one of the best postseason pitchers to ever do it. One of the best pitchers to ever do it in the regular season. He's dominant, has been practically unhittable for large parts of his career. To me, this is more of a sympathy signing. Texas could have had him. He's from Texas, and clearly they said no. Because they could have signed him for 3 months, and he ends up going back to the Dodgers. I think you look at it and say he gets to spend his entire career with the Dodgers. I don't think he'll be a starting pitcher come playoff time. I think he'll be in the bullpen, which is more suited for him. But the Dodgers want to win this year despite the fact that Ohtani won't be pitching. But you look, Ohtani, Freeman, Muncy, Betts, Chris Taylor, Teoscar Hernandez, all in the starting lineup to begin the year. A very dangerous team. They've improved their pitching, which was their weakness, which is why they lost to the Arizona Diamondbacks last season. So kudos to the Dodgers. Congrats to Clayton Kershaw. I did not think he'd be playing again this season, quite frankly. And we'll wrap today with the NBA and Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid had surgery this morning on his knee. He's going to be out an extended period of time and will at least miss 1 month, and he'll be reevaluated a month from now. So the beginning of March. He may not play again this year, just depending on the meniscus, how it looks, how it feels. 76ers have lost 5 of their last 6, including last night to the Mavericks at home. Embiid is the nucleus of their team. He gives them hope. They haven't been a good playoff team with him. It's just a tough spot. And I really think, the NBA trade deadline is on Thursday. And there's been some deals early. You see OG and Siakam get moved. Terry Rozier got moved to the Heat from the Hornets. But it's been a quiet week so far. No big deals. There's rumors about D'Angelo Russell potentially going to the Raptors. Caruso getting traded from the Bulls after Zach LaVine's injury. But I don't think we're going to see a big trading period this week. Because I think we know the Nuggets can win the title again. The Celtics can win the title, can get to the championship, win the title. I'll still put the Bucks in that category, but they scare me because they played some bad basketball as of late. But Doc Rivers is fresh, so say the Bucks can win the title. I'm not ruling out the Knicks. I think the Knicks can get to an NBA Finals if everything goes well for them. They're a good team. They have depth. They're just not healthy right now. That's not their fault. Let them get healthy. They could be a problem. Indiana's good. I don't think they're better than the Knicks, and I don't think they're better than the Bucks. The Cleveland Cavaliers, 8 of 9. Now the second seed in the Eastern Conference, trailing only the Boston Celtics. Didn't see that coming. I still worry about what they're going to do in the playoffs when you have Jared Allen, Mobley on the floor at the same time. Neither guy can shoot, which is what their problem was against the Knicks. Can they win a round? Can they make it interesting? I'll say yes there. I mean, Boston's going to win the East. That's locked up. 5-game lead on any team. But I like the Cavs are a good club. The guard play, LeVert coming off the bench. They can make it interesting. I don't think they win the title. Out West, I don't believe Minnesota can. As much as I love Anthony Edwards, my favorite player in the league, I don't think Minnesota can win the title because I don't trust them. I think they're stupid in big games. I don't think they know what they're doing defensively. Their shifts are horrible. They throw away games. Last weekend, they threw a game to Orlando. I was watching the game last Friday. They should have won that game. They've had about eight times to win it. They didn't. Orlando ends up taking it. I think the Clippers can win the title. Yes, if they stay healthy the way they're playing, Kawhi Leonard played a back-to-back last night. And Paul George. This team's playing games. They're a half game out of first place in the Western Conference. They very well could win the West and then represent the West in the NBA Finals. Sacramento, no. Phoenix, again, Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, all being healthy at the same time. I don't love their center position. I'm going to say no. Lakers, please. Pelicans, I don't believe the Mavericks can. There's about 5, maybe Oklahoma City. There's 5 or 6 teams that can win the title. And I don't think Sacramento or I don't think Indiana or Philly, if they potentially made a move without Embiid, are a move away from winning the championship. So with that being said, I don't think the teams on the periphery are that horny to make a deal. Going, okay, we can go from 8th to 6th or 9th to 7th. Get Boston in the first round. The only teams that I can look at and go, well, Miami might think they can get there because they got there last year and they had basically the same team that they have now, and they beat Boston, and they beat Milwaukee, and they beat the Knicks. They might have that optimism. The Warriors, who don't want to give up on this window. 22 and 25, not playing good basketball all year. Klay Thompson getting benched in the biggest moments. I'm sure they'd love to trade him. They're not dealing him. Nobody's taking that contract. There's not a straight up deal that could be had. Lakers have won 3 in a row, but you beat the Knicks without 2 of their best players. You beat the Hornets by 6 after you play no defense. And you beat the Celtics with no LeBron and no AD in the lineup. So what the hell's happening? Lakers will do something because they have to. But to me, the intrigue is after the season, when they lose in the first or second round, maybe the play-in game, who knows. When the Lakers bow out after not winning a title again, LeBron has a great season and everybody knows it, and he's one of the best players to ever play the game. How long before the rumors start of him going to the Knicks? And I actually think this time it might be a rumor that comes true. At 40 years old, he can opt out, go to the Mecca. They wouldn't have to trade anything for him. And he joins a really good team. Doesn't have to be the best player. Doesn't have to have the ball. Jalen Brunson's pretty damn good with the ball in his hands. Sign him to a 1-year deal with an option, potentially. He has an opportunity to win rings in Miami, Cleveland, Los Angeles, and New York. Help bring a title back to the Knicks, who have been starving since the 70s. That's pretty intoxicating. But there will be trades in the NBA. I just don't expect a blockbuster. I don't expect anything big because I think we just know the contenders at this point. Minnesota and Oklahoma City, could they do more to help their case? Yes. Because both teams are tied for first and both teams are good. Don't get me wrong. But that's why I don't think we've seen much yet, and that's why I don't think there will be a whole lot happening between now and then. But I expect the Warriors and the Lakers to make a move before Thursday afternoon's NBA trade deadline. That's it for tonight. Tomorrow on the podcast, we'll react to tonight's games. We'll see if the Edmonton Oilers do, in fact, make history in Las Vegas, winning their 17th in a row and tying a record. We'll talk more about the Super Bowl as we continue to dive into Super Bowl week. Any NBA moves, we will react to them tomorrow. And any other news around the world of sports, we will react to it as well. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Appreciate the support as always. I'm your host, Noah Warren, and this is To The Point.